I'm sitting here on the familycouncil.org website, and I've just been watching this abortion ticker. Abortions this year, worldwide it's going up, 24 million, 956, 57, 58. In the USA, 606,043. Arkansas, so far, abortions this year, 2,425. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about this and a report card is Jerry Cox, the president of the Family Council. Jerry, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Great. I was just enjoying your Johnny Cash music there, man. They just don't make music like that anymore.
I know. He was so good at telling stories in his music too. There was a narrative.
You could just see the train going down the track.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, so tell us a little bit about not a scorecard, right? Well, when you and I were both presenting in front of the Faulkner County Tea Party, you did make that distinction that Family Council has a report card. Tell us about it.
Well, and one reason, and I know there's not a lot of difference, but I do like to point out the fact that this is a report card based on how lawmakers voted in the current legislative session. So what that says to me is we didn't give anybody a grade. They earned it by how they voted. For example, yesterday I was talking to a senator, and I told the senator, I said, well, you got an A+. She said, oh, thank you. And I said, no, thank you, because this is a reflection of how you voted on the moral issues like pro-life bills, homeschool bills, some of the tax legislation, the bills to regulate so-called medical marijuana, and so forth. And so I know that they're appreciative when they get an A or an A+, but I turn around and say to them, hey, thanks to you. You're the one that voted right. All I did was report it, and that's why it's a report card.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good way to put it. I mean, this is really, in a way, it's a mirror. It's just showing the people, or showing the legislature, what they did. You guys scored 25 bills.
Yes.
And tell us about some of those bills.
Well, most of those were pro-life bills. About half of them were pro-life bills. And for lawmakers who hold themselves out to be pro-life, that should have been just as easy as falling out of bed to vote for those 13 bills. So that for them, that's almost 13 easy, easy votes. It should be. Now, it wasn't easy for everybody because not everybody out there is pro-life. But then we also had a couple of homeschool bills. We ventured over into the tax area just a little bit with a bill that would have given some relief on this awful used car tax where we tax old cars half a dozen times.
Now, tell us about that. Why was that a family council issue?
Well, think about it, Paul, and you get it, and most everybody else does too. Who buys old cars? It's usually families out here that either have teenagers that are just learning to drive. And I mean, there was one time, Paul, with our 4 boys, we owned 6 automobiles. Wow. We had 6 cars in our family, and all of them had over 100,000 miles on them. And we'd buy an old car for one of my boys, and then we'd have to turn around and pay tax on it. And I just thought, this thing's already been taxed half a dozen times, and so you look at little people out here who are being hit with taxes every which way, and then here comes the state and they want to tax an old car, and it's just not right. And so all we were doing was raising the threshold to $7,500 and said, if you buy a car that's less than $7,500, you don't have to pay any state sales tax on it.
Yeah. But
we couldn't get it through. But anyway, it's that kind of reporting that I think the people need to know. Back years ago, I was a high school history teacher, and of course, we did report cards. And you remember what it was like, too. When report cards come out, man, some kids are dancing and cheering, and others are like, oh, my. And it's the same thing with the legislature. But I want to look at them and say, it's your grade. You have to own it one way or the other. You're the one that made it. And so, but you know what? The good news is this year, we had a lot more people make A's this year than we did last year. Last year, I think we only had, I don't know, about a dozen or so that made A's. Get this. This year, we had 90 members of the General Assembly make A's. And we didn't change our grading scale one bit. We didn't change anything. We just picked the 25 bills that we were active on this year, and we gave them 4 points for every right vote, and let 90 to 100 be an A, and anything below 60 is an F. And, we had Democrats last time that made A's. We had Republicans that made F's, and I don't recall if we had any Republicans this year that made F's, but I know we had at least one Democrat this year that made an A because he voted right, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, I see here. So you guys are going to be coordinating, handing out the Statesman Award, 24 senators and 66 state representatives. And, Jerry, I was just telling folks either last hour when I was teasing that, you were coming on, you've been down there 30-plus years. You've been down there where you couldn't get any pro-life legislation done. You couldn't get anything done. And so it is an accomplishment to see. I'm sure, I'd love for you to talk about this level of, good votes versus, what you've seen in the past.
Well, my goodness, years ago, back in I started going out to the Capitol and lobbying for pro-life bills when Bill Clinton was governor. That was in the 1989, so 91. And it's such a different world out there. It's not perfect, because it's made up of a bunch of imperfect people. But I will say this. We went almost 10 years, I believe, without getting a pro-life bill passed. And we worked every year to get a bill passed. As recent as, I believe it was 2011, I think we and Right to Life introduced, I believe, around 10 pro-life bills. We only passed one. Well, this year, we got 13 pro-life bills passed. And I think there was maybe only one that failed, and the only reason it failed is it got filed too late and we just ran out of time, or it would have passed also. And so you go from going 10 years to pass one to passing 13 in one session. I mean, who can complain about that? And so it's a reflection of the culture of life that's been created out here among the people, and it's a reflection of who's in the legislature. And, I wish they were so conservative on all the important issues as they are on pro-life.
Yeah. Well, I think it's certainly, considering what other states are doing, passing bills that allow you to kill a baby, right up until it's born, if not after it's born. It is. I'm glad I live in Arkansas. I'm glad that my government is doing something different. Because I think it means a lot.
Yeah. Now here's an interesting fact. By the way, if people want to see this report card, all they got to do is go online to arkansasreport.com. Real easy. It's Family Council Action Committee, but it's arkansasreport.com, or they can call 501-375-7000, and we'll mail them one. We printed about 10,000 of these, and we're sending them out, but we also have it online at arkansasreport.com. But there were, I believe, about 6 lawmakers, Senate and House combined, who voted with us every single time on every single bill. And so they are the top, very, very, very top ones where they didn't falter on anything whatsoever. And so the ones that got A's, you could kind of go the other way on a couple of votes and still get an A. So there was just a very select few that voted with us every single time on every single bill. Because, see, some people will vote present. And so, they might get 100%, but they only voted on 20 bills instead of 25. So they got 100%, 20 out of 20. Now, if you drop below 15 and you wouldn't vote on at least 15 bills, we just gave them an incomplete. So, but when I look at it a little deeper, there weren't that many that agreed with us and voted on every single bill every time. Only about half a dozen.
Yeah.
But you know what? One lawmaker bless his heart, he got a 13% on the report card. So I don't know if I'd want to go home to mom and dad or the voters and say, I got my 13% on the family council report card.
Yeah, State Representative Charles Blake. We're looking at it right now. We're going over the list, scrolling it down. We're talking with Jerry Cox, president of the Family Council. Again, it's Arkansas Report. Is that what it is? ArkansasReport.com?
ArkansasReport.com.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'd like to, while we have you, Jerry, I would like to talk about some of these bills that, we have federal judge, again, Christine Baker. Every time we say her name, it has to do with some sort of pro-life bill being delayed or struck down or something. I'm looking at the number, Arkansas abortions this year, 2,425. And I'm going to ask, how do we get that down to zero? And, I think at some point it comes down to these judicial battles that we're having.
Well, it is. And Christine Baker is she's a federal judge here in Little Rock. She is extremely pro-abortion. She's made that very clear in all of her rulings. And somehow, almost all of our pro-life bills end up in front of her instead of the other judges that are down there. And that's something that makes me go like, what's going on here? But that's another issue. The fact remains is she's going to strike down every pro-life bill that comes down the pike. But that's not the end of the matter, because these get appealed thanks to our really good Attorney General, Leslie Rutledge. She appeals them on up to the Eighth Circuit, to a higher court, and on other occasions, the Eighth Circuit has overturned Judge Baker. In fact, almost reprimanded her, slapped her hand and said, no, that's a ridiculous statement that you made in your ruling, and we're going to reverse it. So I think some of these, maybe all of these bills that are in front of Judge Baker that she has enjoined, I think we're going to see those rulings turned around by the Eighth Circuit, and I believe we're going to see some of those laws enforced. The one that I want to see enforced is the one that says you got to be an obstetrician gynecologist to do an abortion, because who can argue with that? I mean, do you want a dermatologist out here doing abortions? Right now, anybody with a medical license can open an abortion clinic and start doing abortions. And I don't care which side of the issue you're on, you ought to be concerned about how women get treated and their health and their welfare. So we'll see how that one turns out. But and the others are good laws as well. And, Planned Parenthood is arguing now that you ought to be able to abort a baby just because it has Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And that's the law that Judge Baker overturned. And I think the circuit surely will uphold that, because you shouldn't be discriminated against that way, lose your life just because you happen to have Downs.
And awful. The founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, she was a eugenicist. I mean, and very racist. But that's kind of you're kind of getting into that territory. Well, we're there. I mean, we're there. If you have federal judge, saying that should be a reason, I just think that's I think we're trying to play God in a lot of instances. And it's totally wrong.
And people who think it can't happen here, just look at some of the European countries who boast now that they have very few handicapped children being born.
Yes.
Well, they don't get to be born.
Mm-hmm.
They end those lives before they ever get here, and that's just that's some scary stuff. But thankfully, we have a legislature who will go ahead and pass laws, even though we know they're going to be challenged. But see, we have to keep throwing things at the abortion industry, and some of it's sticking, and it's evidence in the fact that the abortion numbers for Arkansas are about half what they were 20 years ago. We're winning the pro-life battle in Arkansas, and we're winning across the nation in most of the states, except the far left ones on the coasts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if I were the abortion guys, I'd be in retreat, and they are.
Well,
and
not to mention with these abortions where they're saying your baby has Down syndrome and, you need to have an abortion. The doctors are wrong sometimes. Matter of fact, a couple weeks ago, the popular gamer known as Ninja, his name is Richard Blevins, It was his birthday, and he was talking about how much he loved his mom. Quote, "For you guys who don't know, I was not supposed to be born. A lot of the doctors told my mom that I had spina bifida and Down syndrome or a number of other diseases, and I should have been aborted. She said no to all the doctors, and fast forward 9 months after that, I was born. Perfect. Nothing wrong with me. My mom is a saint and an angel. I love her to death."
That's just an amazing story, and there are lots of those stories out there. And even if a child is born with a handicap, the parents I know who have handicapped children say, "Man, it's a blessing. This person's life is a blessing to me." And just anyway, we agree, and we're preaching to the choir. But the good thing about this report card is it works in tandem with other report cards and scorecards that other groups do. And I appreciate everybody who tries to tell everybody how the lawmakers voted. And see, the cool thing is a voter should be able to take those report cards and scorecards and get a snapshot of, because when I'm out speaking, one of the common questions that people ask me is, how's my guy doing? How's my elected official doing? And now I can just hand them the report card, and then I usually say, but don't just use this. Look at all the others and see what kind of snapshots you get of the kind of lawmaker you have, at least how they vote. And that'll tell you something. Now, we do a voter guide before the election, and that's when they tell you what they're going to do. And sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. But the scorecard kind of tells you if they kept their promise or not.
Yeah. Jerry Cox, I appreciate the work you do. I appreciate Family Council. I know the rest of the state agrees. And ArkansasReport.com, folks, if you want to check it out, go check out the Family Council report card. Jerry, I hope you have a great and blessed weekend, sir.
Well, you too. And I appreciate all the good work that you guys do. And I thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon.